Peace and greetings and hotep to you, Brother Bobby.
Greetings, world, blog talk, radio, the remix, the whole 9 yards. I guess there's a reason why that song didn't play. I guess because I need to tell you about another spiritual experience dealing with some of our great entertainers.
Okay.
And that is this. We have found the ultimate song to bring up the spirits. We had to use it. I did a lecture here 2 weeks ago, and it was supposed to rain that day.
Right.
So basically, we took this song and it just ripped the clouds apart. Now, let me give you the history on this.
Okay.
The name of the song is Bar-Kays' Holy Ghost.
Holy Ghost, okay.
By the Bar-Kays. Now, it's very spiritual in this particular aspect. The original Bar-Kays went down in the 60s on an airplane with Otis Redding. The newer Bar-Kays formed a group in the 70s and was also on a series of, this is Stax Records now, with that had Otis Redding and the whole 9 yards. So the newer Bar-Kays formed a group in the 70s or maybe late 60s, and they went on into the 70s, even appeared on Shaft album, on Shaft album, even did a song called Son of Shaft. So anyway, they stayed with Stax Records up until 1976. And then in 76, they got off and went to Mercury Records and became a very popular group, the Bar-Kays, from the 70s on in. And then about 30 years ago, in 1978, 31 years ago, this was about 2 years after they left Mercury in 1978, the way the contract is, usually you owe the previous group or the previous label an extra song or extra album or another album. So they went back in 1978 to Stax Records, which was the actual home in which the original Bar-Kays went down. And they recorded Holy Ghost. And Holy Ghost became a very powerful song. It was so powerful till it was able to be mentioned on the first commercial rap album, Rapper's Delight, with the Bar-Kays and the Holy Ghost. But what it is, it has the timbales at the end of this riff. And it goes on now. And when the timbales come on, not only they talk about the Holy Ghost, but when the timbales come on, this is when the spirits come out. Now, the interesting part about this is I had the album version. I remember the 12-inch version, which was about 8 or 9 minutes long.
Right.
From the 70s. But when I got around to getting it, I got the album version, and which was, I guess, no more than 5 minutes, about 4 minutes long. So anyway, so what I had to do, I was desperate. Because Linda was like, oh man, this song here, that little piece, we got to get it extended. I said, yeah, and I didn't get the 12-inch version from the 70s. So I didn't have an extra album, so I couldn't mix it. And basically, I just took my hand and put on the needle and put in I was copying it onto a CD, and I just took my hand and manually put it on the needle and kept hitting the riff of the timbales over and over till I got it to about 8 minutes.
Right.
But it set up enough stuff to bring the spirits through. And it's for healing and all that. Now, the mystery to this is,
right,
when they were called back to Stax Records to do that last album, the spirits that went down or died with Otis Redding came back through on that album. So as a result, when you hear that timbale riff at the end, that is the spirits, literal spirits that have transcended. So we talk about some very powerful stuff. And so it was just interesting when you said you was going to put her up with a fire, evil and all. And I said, well, I said, well, when she after she gets through with that, I'm going to tell her about the Bar-Kays thing. So I guess this was enough time to explain that whole aspect.
Yes, and very well needed so. We have so many people listening, Bobby, as you know, from all over the world, and I can tell you this has been a busy, busy week for me. Ever since everyone found out that you were coming on the show, you're very loved by many, and everybody really wants to hear your insight and wisdom that you have to share. And so let's start with that, because some people, this may be their very first introduction to you and not familiar. Where do you get all of the knowledge, the insight, the wisdom that you get? Where do you say you get that from? Where would you say that comes from for you?
Well, part of it is previously maybe over 20-something years of study, but a lot of the insight also comes from the Spirit.
Right.
You see, from the Spirit. So it's a combination of a bibliography. Naturally, I had to study to familiarize myself with the systems. And there's about 70 disciplines in the metaphysical aspect. That's why I make the thing, no one has no time to just stick with one discipline.
Right.
If you have a person say, I'm going to study only ancient Egypt, they're only studying a fragment. Because Egypt, although it was the original, one of the originals, and they had thousands of years of scholarship and spiritual teachings, they also had 1,000 years of rape and pillage.
Right.
And the Library of Alexander burnt down twice. But this stuff made sure it made itself all over the world. So if somebody say, I'm only going to study Kabbalah, they're only studying the fragment. You see, if somebody, and usually, a lot of times, our ego is we want to master something. So we want to level other systems because we become proficient at this one. But what we don't realize is, being proficient at one, you see what I'm saying, is only being proficient at one picture frame on a whole film. You see what I'm saying? So you have to familiarize yourself with as much knowledge and information as you can, because knowledge is truly infinite. And so what I had to do, fortunately when I started out, especially in the black conscious community, we went through a whole historical aspect where we had to relearn all of our historical ancient Kemet, and ancient Africa, ancient India, ancient what have you. And so when I started with the mysteries, because they talked about the history, but they were always mentioning the mystery, but nobody necessarily was actually teaching on it.
Right.
The only person that was close to the metaphysics at that time was Dr. Delbert Blair. And mainly he was focused on basically a lot of ufology and a lot of other metaphysical aspects. But what I had to do is when I started lecturing in 92, I had to go and I had to have massive amount of bibliography and different systems because I had to single-handedly bring back a lot of these systems. Then, Phil Valentine, who had been doing lectures since the 80s within the confines of New York, started doing some stuff when he came out in 94. So, but basically, when it came to the bibliography and stuff, I basically had to just unravel all this stuff by myself. As far as when it comes to the bibliography and the actual naming these particular texts in these books. So as a result, and like I said, we had Phil Valentine. It was only me, Phil Valentine, and Dr. Delbert Blair. And that was pretty much it for the whole 90s. I think they had Henry DiBernardo, which was a brother at one time. So as a result, I had to unravel tons and tons of information and different bibliography, and had to deal with multiple systems, including mythology, which is very key. That's the glue that holds this stuff together. There's a lot of mythology. We'll get into some of that tonight. But one of the keys is, and then by 2000, I started going into although I was always going into my own path, I started living the realm of the gods that I was learning about. And so a lot of the adventures and a lot of the path working became real.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? It became real. So it's a combination of both of what this thing led to be when it comes to this particular spirituality. A massive library of bibliography, but also tapping into that particular spirit realm. And that's one of the experiences or one of the synopses that I want to go into tonight and give you a background on this.
Right.
So people can understand just exactly what we're dealing with. You see, are we dealing with trying to go into these older traditions? What is the goal? What is the end result here? Are we just going to be people that just continue serving these traditions, which were far fragments from what they originally was, or are we supposed to be becoming gods? And that's the mystery.
That's the mystery.
That's the mystery. Gods. When they went into the mystery systems in Egypt, West Africa, India, China, where have you, Mexico, Olmec, Aztec, when they went into these mystery systems, these mystery systems was ultimately to raise you to the level of gods. You see, now, as those mystery systems deteriorated, they became religions. And although you would have, let's give you an example, you would have something that was a little more advanced than Christianity when you talk about Yoruba or Voodoo, because they kept the ritualistic sides.
Right, to them.
They're still nothing but a far fragment or a religion compared to when there were mystery schools where you went into those schools to become an Oshun, or to become an Ogun, or become an Urzuli. You see what I'm saying? There's a difference.
Right.
Later on, the fragments was left behind. You basically worship them, and pretty much it became a beggar system. So much until even the gods, when they came in 2001, they said, we don't really even like humans. We're not even sure if we like humans. And at first I was put off by that. And then I realized what they were saying.
Right.
They were saying that basically the humans don't even contact us or don't even want to even deal with us now unless they want something. So a lot of the rituals and stuff, you see what I'm saying, they could care less about an Oshun or Legba or anybody like that until they want something. You see what I'm saying? But one of the keys here was we went into those original systems to become those deities. And so we were in God's school. And that's what's missing now, because we lost the point of origin and the true meaning behind all of this. You see?
Right.
The true meaning behind all of this. So these are some of the things that has to be put back. And as a result, I didn't get into this journey just to ask them for material things. I mean, I pretty much could. I went to college for damn near 8 years. I pretty much could have made my own way in that. I came out of the materialism, you see, to explore something on a much more divine level. I didn't know it at the time, but ultimately that became the goal. You see what I'm saying? So this is what we want to get into, the goals and the objectives of what this occult is. You see what I'm saying? And so this is the paradigm we're going to lay down tonight.
Okay, sounds like a great one. For all of you out there listening, we have Brother Bobby Hemmitt with us here live in the remix this evening. And for those of you out there listening that want to find out more information about what all but Brother Bobby has to offer, I'm going to go ahead and give you something that you can kind of jot down, and we'll be talking more about this as we get into the show today. And that is, you can simply go to Facebook and Google Bobby Hemmitt there. That is a great place to connect with him. Or simply go to MySpace/Bobby Hemmitt and send a message there, and you'll be able to find out all about his DVDs, and we'll talk more about that as we continue on. Now, Bobby, I do have some questions for you, and some of which are a lot of things we're going to cover tonight. And so that is my question. This is a question I've had, during my quest of spirituality, and I constantly remind myself of this. I ask, what is the purpose of all of this knowledge, and how is it going to help us?
Right.
And is this information going to be useful when we die, when we transcend from here? What is the purpose of all of this study? You said 20 years. Some others, scholars, have 30, 20 years. What is the purpose of this?
Well, in order to find out the purpose, we need to go and access several mythologies and give a synopsis on what happened to us. What happened to us. And a lot of times we get back, especially the Africans or the black people, we have to reiterate that because we're talking internationally. We get into it because we want to find out how we fell to such a low point. But what we don't realize is we fell to a low point when we first came in to humanity. When we first became locked into the human stage. And that's where we need to go. And then we can think. So we'll go into a bit of the synopsis on this so we can answer later on what we're supposed to be doing. So basically, let me take you through a few things. Prior to this particular universe, what we would call the known existence of the Milky Way galaxy or what have you, because we it's relevant to the Earth, we inhabited several primal worlds.
Okay.
And those primal worlds, well, they came in 1998 and they said, well, this particular universe is something like 14 billion years. So the primal worlds that we inhabited before this particular creation, which is about 14 billion years, we just give a number just for a synopsis. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You never really know, but let's get to kind of round this thing off. Prior to this particular creation, which is about 14 billion years, we inhabited several primal worlds that existed about 14 billion years prior to it falling or demise. You see what I'm saying? So we existed in these particular primal worlds. And those particular primal worlds were these high superior deities. And these high superior deities, in so many words, got old and started falling asleep or losing power. Their children rose up, which would be the gods that exist today, the ones we worship. Their children, those primal deities or entities, children rose up and thrust their parents into a physical existence, and they became humans. So we are the parents of the gods that we worship today.
Wow.
You see?
Right.
And became humans. And so in our human existence, what we were supposed to do was to go to an incubation stage of the mummy that you see Osiris wrapped in the mummy.
Right.
Which was a cocoon. And it was a cooking vessel to cook the soul into perfection and sift out the flaws that made us fall in the first place. You see, there was a flaw in us that made us fall in the first place. And for so many years, millions of years, we had to sift out the certain flaws to perfection.
Right.
Thus leads us to the present situation of the perfected stone, the philosopher's stone, or the great works, or the golden fleece, the holy grail, the Excalibur, all these different systems that tell you about this perfection. The Christos, the Christ form, which is the perfected soul, perfected stone. So what happened was, we took on a physical existence. Now, when we first took on this physical existence, we could maneuver just as gods. And that's where you get your Lemurian and your Atlantean periods. Okay. So we were into what is called a semi-physical world. So in those particular days, the physical world was like a faint shadow, and the spiritual world was clear. As the vibratory rate fell and we became more encased into the physical, the spiritual world became a faint shadow and the physical world became visible. And we sunk lower and lower into humanism, into a particular aspect. We used to have multiple gifts: clairvoyance, clairaudio. We could fly. We could do just about everything you see a superhero can do.
Right.
And it was maybe hundreds of different gifts that was reduced down to the 7 or the 5 senses that we ended up with, the 5 senses. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And that primal world was covered over, that God form was covered over with something called the elder seal or the elder sign. and was covered over with now what you call the physical brain. The physical brain is the enemy, and humanity is the enemy. And up under the physical brain is the primal worlds, which is the pineal gland. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Which is the pineal gland. And so we talk about an incubation period, which the inner worlds, which is the pineal gland, the kundalini energies, the chakras, there's 160 chakras. You see what I'm saying?
Body, right. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you look up into space, when you can see these chakras and you can see these particular souls, when you look up in space, those are the souls that's down here inside of the human body, covered up, and we are dreaming outwardly. So we have a series of dreams that we call the illusionary phenomenon that we call reality. It's nothing but a trick from the brain.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? To give us a series of illusions that don't even exist while the soul slept. And as the soul slept, these series of dreams became known as the ego. And the ego, the self that you identify with now, that what you call yourself a human.
Right.
And as that, and it supposedly thinks that it is real, but it is not. It is only a construct or a projection of one's dreams coming from the soul. So, we created, go ahead.
I was going to say that is perfect because I do have some questions about the soul. I just want to interject to everybody.
Yes.
Welcome again. We are listening to Brother Bobby Hemon. In just a short moment, we will start to open up the phone lines. So if you have a question and you want to call in, you can definitely go ahead and reach us at 646-652-2711, and we'll go ahead and try to get to your questions. So, Bobby, you know, with all of that being said and really trying to pull this together, that definitely takes me to the question that I did have for you, and I want you to see, I know we sort of talked about it and you mentioned it, about the 8 primordial gods and goddesses. If you can speak on that, and also a question that has come up several different times, I know, with the conscious community and those of us who study these particular areas, did the gods ever walk the face of the earth? And you're saying, yes, they did. And so my question now is, do they walk the face of the earth now?
No, okay. Okay. All right. With the 8 primordial gods on earth, they later on became the 8 chakras. You got 7 major chakras. They got one called the 8th chakra, or the height. You see what I'm saying? As far as major chakras, your 8 primordial deities, which used to be, you know, you could even go with the later mythology of Isis, Osiris, Horus, Set, the Nut, Geb, so on. Those primordial deities. They exist within us as the chakras, and naturally the Horus, which would be the final implementation, would be the pineal gland, the Horus or the Mayat, because there's a dual figure. It's an androgynous figure called Hor, Ma, which is Mayat, Ku. Horus and Mayat are Heru, Ma, Ku. Heru and Mayat in a pyramid. Ku means pyramid. So Mayat would also be a form of the pineal gland, the finishing form of that. So the Mayat, most people think that it's physical principles, and yes, they used to have the same principles to govern society, but Mayat means a perfection. In the spirit world, it means the perfecting the last result. It's called the tikkun in Kabbalah, the perfecting principle. You see what I'm saying? So, Heru Har-Ma-Ku, Har-Ma-Ku. So the primordial deities later on became encased in the human body as the chakra systems. Now, it's interesting here. That I want to say one thing before I go to that part about did we exist. So we existed on the planet in what we would call pre-dynastic Egyptian or pre-dynastic society on into dynastic society. When the Egyptians, when they asked them, they said, well, how old is your civilization? They said, well, it's 3,000 years of dynastic period. and another 8,000 years of pre-dynastic. They're roughly around 11,000 years.
Right.
They said, well, who used to rule before then? They said, that's when a whole bunch of gods used to rule. Well, who were the gods?
Right.
Well, the gods used to be us before we got more encased into the physical body. You see, encased into the physical body. We used to rule on a semi-physical level. Now, all of this is after the fall. You see what I'm saying? But even so the earth has several existing periods of existence. Not just so when you talk about Atlantis, Lemuria, Terra, Mu, and all of these primordial places, the reason why they can't find a lot of evidence on them is the simple fact that they existed prior to the physical realm. So the earth had several existence. They had one that was a spiritual existence, then one which was a semi-physical, semi-spiritual existence on into the physical. You see what I'm saying? So this is why a lot of people, you see, and so whenever you do find some older stuff, like they have stuff down in Haiti, they have stuff in Cuba, and they found this stuff on Atlantis, those were the last stages when stuff slipped into the physical. And even then, we were still gods. Now, we had a history. We knew that we were going to lose our memory. So we got to work in what they call the monumental phase of Kemet, and we built the monuments around the world, and a lot of the records, especially in Kemet, because we got enough hieroglyphics and stuff, they built it, so they focused on Egypt, and we built those things because we knew that our memory was going to go dormant. So what we did is we built all of these massive records so we would have those things when the memory went dormant. So basically, the ancient primordial person went to sleep. So all of the dynastic period and all those years of all that record keeping was that we knew that we were going to sleep and we had to put these records on the earth. You see what I'm saying? Before we lost the memory.
Right.
You see, before we lost the memory. Before that, we had what is called, I have detailed files. You've heard the Terminator say that.
Right, right.
I have, so the ancient primordial person had detailed files. So you always ask yourself this question. Why is it that you would have a part of Africa that would have the massive amount of monuments? Egypt has more artifacts that they can cover museums around the world.
Right, true.
And you see, around the world, you got 4 scripts, hieroglyphic, hieratic, and demotic, and they got one that they can't even translate. It's over there. So how would you have all that stuff, and then the rest of Africa is barren? You can barely find monuments. And the problem was the rest of Africa, including the Egyptians, had detailed files. So their existence, their knowledge, their technology was on the inside of their brain or inside of their minds.
Right.
And so they only built the monumental phase when they knew that they were going to go dormant and this stuff was going to be covered over, our memory was going to be lost. So when you see those monumental phases in East Africa and on into India and different places where you had the most of that, that was only after the detailed files started to slip and they had a race against time. So now to ask this particular question, did the gods walk on earth?
Right.
Okay, and did the gods walk on earth? The gods did walk on earth, but when they walked on earth, that was during the pre-physical stage.
Ah.
You see what I'm saying? So Osiris gets shut up in a box. Before that, he's the god of the perfect black. He gets shut up in a box. The box itself is the physical body. You see what I'm saying? Is the physical body. Now, these particular gods in the pre-existent world were androgynous, which means that both Isis and Osiris was once one. That's why Osiris, or Osar, is worshipped as a feminine god in parts of Africa. That's in the book Geraldine Pinch's book, Egyptian Mythology. Okay. So he's the bull deity, but he's also worshipped as the cow deity, Het-Heru. So Het-Heru is a form of Osiris.
Okay.
But what we're talking about androgynous beings. And when our children separated us to get us even into more lockdown, they separated the male and the female. And when they separated the male and the female, that is the period of separating Isis and Osiris, or Aset and Osar. And as a result, when Isis and Osiris was together as the primordial pair, which is two twin halves of the same essence, that was called the Atlantean period, the Lemurian period.
Right.
So part of our separation.
Shu, right.
Huh?
I said
right.
or like Tefnut and Shu, yeah.
Tefnut, you're right, exactly. Exactly. So when this stuff was separated, this put us more into bondage. Put us more into bondage. And that's why all disciplines ultimately talk about reconnecting the two hemispheres. Shakmabina, which is a Kabbalah. Shiva, Parvati, East India. Lakshmi, Vishnu, East India. Solomon, Shiva, Christian lure. You see what I'm saying? Isis and Osiris, Kamite. You see, so the ultimate thing, and so that's what the Maya period is. Horus, Maya, conjoined back into the primordial androgynous stage. Now, when we're not talking about physical androgyny. We're talking about spiritual androgyny. We're talking about something where your soul regains back the feminine half of itself.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So this masculine half of the self and stuff like that. So now, on one of the kings that answer your question, he's right. We didn't walk the earth in the physical because at that particular time we became humans.
Got you.
And we became humans. But what it's not saying here is a lot of the mythology is talking about walking the earth in the future. So right now I'm talking to you, and we're talking to people listening, is a form of the return of the gods.
Got you.
Of the return of the gods. It's just that we are too damn busy trying to be humans. So when we come in contact with gods, and we're supposed to be trying to find out what it is to be a god, we're trying to find out what it is to better our human life, which is not even relevant.
Right.
If human life was relevant, why is it that if a person dies every 5 seconds and the earth don't even flinch, that means that it's not even relevant. The only thing that is relevant is before the dream. That which is before the dream.
Right.
You should say, excuse my telephone, every now and then it rings, so.
That's
yes.
okay.
Now, there was something else I was getting ready to say. But it'll come back to me. Wow.
Well, we were talking about them walking, and we're the return of the gods and walking in this physical state,
yes.
which, all of this is so incredible. And so many times I hear this question go around, and you can answer this one as well, Bobby,
yes.
because I think this fits right into what we're talking about now. When we get to look at ancient Kemet, and we look at that, or Tamaray, or whatever we want to call it,
yes.
or Africa, ancient Egypt, when we look about that and we think about such a great nation, I've heard so many discussions of people saying, well, what happened? Why did we fall? Why did we fall as a nation, as people? How did this happen? Some of them would say, oh, it was our turn to fall, and what goes up must come down. You hear all of these different things about what actually happened to the dynasties or what went on in that period. And I want you to expound on that and to really talk to us about when people began to say what happened in ancient Kemet, it was sort of destined to happen because it was our time to fall.
Yes.
What do you have to say to that?
Yes, we have texts. Now, you probably hear me quote these texts, the Hermetic texts,
right.
where we knew we were going into slavery 5,000 years before it happened. So it wasn't a fall. It was what it was a process of different stages. Mm-hmm. So in so many words, it wasn't a fall. It's a process of different stages of deterioration and different stages of growth.
Right.
So what happened here is our sun would emit these solar rays. and these rays would come to a civilization, and it would put a certain rate that would raise the melatonin levels or the melanin levels to a point that these people build civilizations. But in the universe, when we talk about the chaos sphere, the laws of chaos is change is supreme.
Right.
You see, nothing down here. If this nothing down here. Now remember, now we were put into a artificial world of dreams and a series of events that never happened by our children. So even if we build a civilization out of that, if it didn't change, we would never get back to our perfected state, or we would never realize our perfected state. So it's no different than you got baby teeth that come in.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Then they fall out, and then your other teeth come in. Then your wisdom teeth. It's a series of stages. And that's what happened with humanity. Humanity was not supposed to stay the same. It's just that we, as black people, are representative of the fall because the simple fact we were the oldest. So we were around long enough for the actual change to happen. You see what I'm saying? Change to happen.
Right.
You see, and you got to realize this. See, this is the thing about the time factor, because what really messes us up is us being a Christian-minded people. We think that the earth is about 3,000 years old, you know, with Abraham and the whole Garden of Eden stuff. Then a few civilizations came for about 1,000 years, and then we got to America. So basically, we got pottery 3,000 years old.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So if you look at the timeline, it's not a fall. If you look at the timeline, if the Egyptians studied the stars for 40,000 years and didn't tell nobody.
Wow, yes.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Even if we let's just say, just for conservative, people that don't want to even get into that far back, let's just say 11,000 years, which was the Egyptians said out of their mouth, and then they was being very conservative because they said you never really tell no one your real timeline. You see what I'm saying? That's sacred.
Right.
So let's just say 11,000 years, and America has only been here a country for 230, as far as America, not the America that was run by the Moors and all. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the 1776. It's only been here 233 years. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And
yeah.
it's never went to perfection, and it's already falling apart as we can see. But the point I'm trying to make here is to last for 11,000 years is unheard of.
True.
Rome can't claim it, Greece can't claim it, Europe can't claim it. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Only the older nations can claim this type of stuff. So when you think about it and you push the timeline back, it wasn't a fall. It's just an intermission.
Got it. Makes sense.
Let's just look at just Africa.
Right.
Africa didn't fall into a colonization. And although they took us out of Africa and took part of us out of Africa in the 1500s, Africa didn't fall until the 1800s. When we talk about the colonized states. So even that, you're only talking about intermission for a couple of 100 years. You see what I'm saying?
Right, that's true.
You know, so and most of the falling came from the British Empire, which took over India, Tibet, parts of Africa. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
You see, and so the slave trade wasn't just to consider a fall. It was an extrapolation. You see what I'm saying? But it wasn't necessarily the fall. You see, so when we're talking about this, we're talking about intermissions. And we must understand that the timelines are a lot longer than what we think. And we have been advanced a lot longer than what we think. You see, and some people only take our advancement back to physical society. But if we lived in a society, not even the primal world, because that was before we were talking about human history. We lived in a form of human history that was thousands of years of pre-physical society, then we've been here a mighty long time.
This is correct.
So in so many words, he goes again. It is not a form of a fall. It's a form of a process. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Of what they call putrefaction or illumination. You see, it's no different than a season. You know, when the flowers bloom, they die, they bloom again next season. That's what happened with us. But in this particular case, we are at the cusp of, on the end of this, with our DNA, which is perfected. You see.
Right.
Which is perfected. It's just that the people don't have a blueprint because people are too busy locked into human endeavors. So you must die from everything that you think is important is not important. Not even bullshit-ass family.
Right.
Stick a fork in them. They are done. They are the worst.
Oh, yeah.
Your family is there to keep you down if you are consciousness. They are hideous, putrid feces. So when they have a light being coming to this planet, they will send family members there to keep you down because they know you get all emotional. Nothing is important than your rise back to godhood.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
So very well said. We are listening to Brother Bobby Hemmett, and I know you guys, I told you we will be taking some calls, and we will. We're getting ready to open up the phone lines. I see that there are many people on the phone lines right now that we have. We have several people on the phone lines now, and I will be getting to your calls. We have just 11 minutes left to go in this hour, and then we will continue this discussion with Brother Bobby Hemmett. For those of you who are interested in purchasing some of his DVDs and some of the great work that he spoke about over the years, you can simply go to MySpace and / go to Google Bobby Hemmett, and it will pull up. Or you can go to Facebook. Everybody knows about Facebook. I soon to be over there. But you can just simply Google in Bobby Hemmett and send him information there, and you'll be able to reach out and touch him. And, of course, you can always contact me. You'll be able to reach him through me, Miss Blue, of course. And I'll leave that information on the home page as well as the links to Brother Bobby Hemmett.
And I want to give... I want to give a shout-out to Brother Panic because he's the one that makes the Facebook and the MySpace possible.
Okay,
you see what I'm saying? Because I don't even own a computer.
Right.
And that's by, a computer, not by economic, that's by choice.
Right.
And it's not about, I think it's negative. No, I'm just not the kind of individual that's going to sit before no keyboard. So it has nothing to do with anything being negative if you got one.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? If I did that, I wouldn't be Bobby Hemmett.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So that is the reason why, but it's nothing personal. I don't want to shit on the cyber community. I'm just saying, I'm like the Dalai Lama. I'm like the monk, and I'm quite sure the Dalai Lama is online.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? But I don't own a computer because the simple fact is my brain don't tick that way. You see what I'm saying? You see, so that has something to do with something on my cosmic level.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? On that particular level.
So we do, at the top of the hour, we did give a thanks to Brother Panic, but let's go ahead and give another thanks to Brother Panic for maintaining all of this stuff for
He
Brother.
He maintains all of that. So
Brother Bobby.
But also, you can go on his website and check out things also.
Brother Panic, you want to go ahead and put your information in the, we know to go to MySpace / Bobby Hemmett, and that's BOBBYHEMMITT. You can simply go there and get to it, or go to Facebook and simply put in Bobby Hemmett and send the information there, and it will surely get to Brother Bobby Hemmett. Also, you can contact me as well, but definitely you want to hit those two spots up to make sure you get in touch with Brother Bobby Hemmett. So we're going to continue on the discussion. Before we actually get ready to open up the phone lines, I have another question. These are some questions that have been sent in.
Mm-hmm.
There are some listeners from Japan that may not be able to call in, so we'll get their questions as well. But my next question that I have is, I want you to talk to us or explain to us about the waters of noon. And are we still in the waters of noon? Talk to us about that.
Yes, the primordial waters of noon are what they call the slime of Kim. This primordial soup.
Mm-hmm.
It now exists in our central nervous system. It's called melanin, or chaos in the blood. The primordial waters of chaos, it exists inside of us now. and I talk about and I was talking about Stax Records, you know, but Stax is a Phoenician / Greece.
Okay.
Greek term. We say Greek because the Greeks, basically, the Greeks, the Phoenicians later on became the Greeks. That's why there's 85% sickle cell trait in Greece, because it was a black society. So the Greek mythology is different than the Greek philosophy. Greek philosophy was stolen from Africa, stolen from Egypt. Greek mythology is Phoenician, Sumerian, and Typhonian. You get the Typhonian, which is pre-dynastic Egyptian. They become the Phoenicians, which is later on, and then the Minoans, and then the Greeks. And there was never, so the Spirit told us, I said, you know, there was never, I said, why did you let the Greeks into the mystery system? And I said, why did you let white people into the mystery system? They said, no, white people wasn't around long enough to be in the mystery system. But you had Greeks in the mystery system, yes. So what does that mean? Well, the Greeks weren't white. You know, a lot of that is late 1800 when they built most of those statues.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? They even fished a statue out from the Aegean Sea in 1972 and sold it to a museum in Ohio. And when they did the carbon dated, it said 1970. So we're talking about a fabrication of history. But nevertheless, that's another thing.
Right.
In the Phoenician mythology that we call Greek, there's a river that runs in the underworld that's called Styx. And our ancestors or the gods float down these barges in that underworld. That is the central nervous system of the primordial people. So the primordial waters of Noon was transferred from the cosmos into human bodies, and the other part of that was split open and made into the ocean, which is called the salt water. And also with the overthrow, all this is in the Enuma Elish,
right,
which is the overthrowing of Tiamat, the great mother, which was the primordial waters. But what ends up now in this particular time when you talk about that, it exists within the central nervous system. And a good part about that now, as more research comes in, there's a lot of white folks that's got this stuff in the central nervous system. You see, something rotten in the cotton. They're growing Buddhas and everything else. So don't exclude yourself from this. You see what I'm saying? Because it's bigger than what we think it is. You see what I'm saying? So as new research go on, but the primordial waters of Noon now exist within us, within us, and that's what makes up all of the endorphins, the DMT spirit molecule, different types of elixirs in the human body.
Right.
It is the consistency of the existence of the primordial waters of Noon.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Beautiful. All right, I think it's a good time for us to go to the phone line. So for those of you who are listening and you're on the phone line, do me a favor. If you would like to ask a question, please just press the 1, and what I will do is I will call on you. Some of you are there and you're just listening, and that is certainly fine. You are welcome and more than willing to just continue to listen, and we'll get your calls. Okay, so we're going to get ready to start taking calls right after this brief, and I mean very, very brief message here. All right, everyone, we are live in the remix, of course, speaking with Brother Bobby Hemmitt. And so the phone lines are open, and you are free to call in. The number that we can be reached here is 646-652-2711. And so I'm going to go ahead and just call out your area code. Tell me who you are, where you're calling from, and we'll go ahead and get right to your questions. Caller from area code 231, you are live in the remix. Please tell us who you are and where you're calling from. Caller from area code 231, you are live in the remix. Okay. Sounds like they're a little busy now. We'll come back to them. All right. Caller from area code 407, you are live in the remix. Can you please tell me who you are and where you're calling from?
Hello, my name is Omar. I'm calling from Orlando, Florida.
Yes, Omar, can you do me a favor? If someone has their computer speakers turned up, can you make sure they're turned off while you're on the phone so we don't get the feedback?
Yes,
Okay, thank you so much. This is Brother Omar, who also discovered me on YouTube, so one of my YouTube listeners and a big Bobby Hemmitt supporter. You had a question for Brother Bobby Hemmitt?
Yes, how you doing, Bobby Hemmitt?
How you doing?
I came across your information through YouTube over the years.
Yeah.
You know, I started on Islam, but when I first heard you, I tried to dodge you because what you were saying was so opposite of what I was used to hearing.
Yeah.
So
it can be rather shocking.
Yeah, but eventually I came back to it, you know, listening to you and Brother Phil and some other brothers.
Yeah.
But my question is, like, when I was young, I used to try to, like, focus on things that weren't there, like, in between, like, say if I stood in between a wall and, like, in between, like, nothingness, until, like, eventually I started to be able to see, like, microscopic organisms. And, like, now I can see it whenever I want to see it, consciously or unconsciously.
Yeah.
I just wanted to run that by you and see if that has anything to do with this, some of the information or things like that.
Yes. When we are young, we come back to the planet with all of those senses open. And as we go towards puberty, those things start to shut down. They start to shut down when we get in high school, and not only that, when we get into society, when we're told that we're not supposed to deal with that. The only misfortune about the hip hop community is it destroyed the minds of thousands of young people becoming grown too young, because you had to be hard. You see, you got little children now, you see what I'm saying, because of the culture that the hip-hop brought, and, they became grown. So therefore, I'm quite sure that the people who control our lives control the dead folks' lives, not ours, because we are in control. I'm quite sure they're happy because they understand that we lose our innocence too fast, especially with the culture where it suggests that you become an adult and all hard and stuff based on the music and stuff at a younger age. And so we lose the innocence. And in this particular point, whereas the nerds become the complete enemies in schools. And you used to be in high school, but it is as low as primary school. You see what I'm saying? And this is a way that you can shut down those spiritual sinners at an earlier age that would not even be, even in my day. In my day, you started becoming, trying to become more of an adult, you see, right after junior high school or right in that process. And when this thing happens, what happens is it shuts down those spiritual sinners. And that's why they tell you to be innocent. And basically, and what we have to do in the metaphysical world is we have to spend all this time trying to tear off all of this royal dressing to become innocent. And you have to die again. But it's a lot harder now with the youth. So basically, when you were young, you pretty much, your mind pretty much was free enough to keep certain things going and certain things open to this, to now you have glimpses of that. And that's a good part about it. But so the remedy here now is, and I had to tell this to a brother that was getting a PhD. He loved my work, but he could not get in it, and he was real into the social protests and all of the, the social concerns and the black power this, but he had very hard time trying to slip into the spiritual because of he became a left-brain prisoner based on academia. And as a result, I told him what he had to do is to get into the training of everything that you think is crazy and stupid and weird, embrace it. And everything that you think that's logical, rational, and common sense, say that that's crazy and reprogram the mind. And that's where the spirit will come in. You see what I'm saying? And you break out of the left brain prison of logical, rational, and the five sense. What smells good, looks good, sounds good, and tastes good. You see what I'm saying? and feels good. So these are things that reprogram the mind. So you're right on it, and because if you stayed with it a little longer, it would be nothing for you to even get back even more of those things. But believe it or not, our DNA is going to do it anyway. People are having in things right now. You know, in the early 2000s, I would tell a lie, and the next day the damn lie would come true. You see what I'm saying? Because I spoke it into existence.
Exactly.
Yes.
So we can make what we choose to make happen.
Exactly.
If we want to find the negativity, we can find it. If we want something real and pure and positive, we can find it. Beautiful.
Exactly.
We're going to go on. Caller from area code 216, you are live in the remix. Please tell us who you are and where you're calling from.
Yeah, this is Ursa Ma'at.
Sister Ursa Ma'at.
Calling from Cleveland. What's up, Bobby?
All right.
I just wanted to say two things. I just wanted to get your outlook on these monsters that's washing up on shore on the Montauk in New York. And also, you see a lot of people just dressing androgynous. You know, they just, you know, I mean, they could be with women and women one day and men, and then it's just like it's just all just, it's real crazy. And I just wanted to get your idea of those two things.
Well, believe it or not, there's so much abnormality going on until it is the media's place to stomp it out just by giving you distractions and not reporting certain things. Now, did you say monsters?
Yeah, they had the Montauk monsters. One washed up last year in June.
Right. Yeah.
And then one washed up May of this year.
Okay, what happens is this. The monsters, the dragons, and all of those things were used to be material or entities from that world I talked about that was non-physical. Well, every now and then what happens is these worlds bump into each other, the physical and the non-physical world, and maybe it would be the third dimension, which is the physical, and the fourth dimension. They into each other based on cycles, pockets, different conjunctions, and every now and then these entities will show up. You see what I'm saying? These beings will show up. So the Loch Ness Monster was true. You see what I'm saying? And the reason why people can't see it and stuff because it bounced back out of that dimension. So it's all types of things that's actually happening right now. And so we're thinking, you know, and the key is to make you still think that it's 1980 or 1990. But there's things and if the news reported what was really going on an everyday basis, you would think you would be living in another planet. But that's one of the keys is to keep you on lockdown. You see, with the same mindset. You see, so every now and then, nothing new is supposed to happen. When we do know every now and then something new does happen, it's just that they don't report it. So it's multiple things that's going on. And I talk about how this dog showed up in my front yard, scared of cats. Scared to death of kittens, big ass dog. And the kittens was walking around him like they the gangsters. And so the next door neighbor, I asked them was they dog, and they was like, no, the dog just showed up. And so so they told the next door. She said, well, we took him way out, about 15 miles out off of Camerton Road. And when we got back to the house, he was back in the front yard. And I said, that's because he's coming through another dimension. He was someplace in America in one dimension. He saw the gate, the porthole, and he came through it. And so when you took him way 15 miles out, he could still see the porthole, and he just went through the porthole and ended up back in your front yard. You see what I'm saying? In your front yard. So basically, when they moved, they took the dog with them. They also stole one of our cats, but they took the dog with them too. And yeah. So
all right, Bobby.
They stole the cat that the dog rid of.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Sister Ursa Ma'at, for calling in, and also thank you for your support. That is actually who really gifted us with bringing Bobby Hemmett to the remix the first time. So a very supportive sister there of all of her work and also of Brother Bobby Hemmett. We're going to continue on and go to the phone lines. Please be ready with your question and comment so we can get everybody in. Several people on the line, over 20 people. Caller from area code 407. You are live in the remix. Please tell us who you are and where you're calling from. Caller from area code 407. Okay, we're going to continue on. Perhaps they're just listening. If you would like to ask a question, please press 1, and what 1 will do is actually go ahead and give me a signal that you're having a question for Brother Bobby Hemmett. Caller from area code 310, you're live in the remix. Please tell us who you are and where you're calling from.
Peace, Hotep, Black Family, Brother Hotep out here around from Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay, thank you so much for calling in. You had a question for Brother Bobby Hemmett?
Yes, Bobby Hemmett. I've been watching you for a long time now, Bobby. I appreciate all the work that you've been doing for the family. But one question I would like to ask, because my cousin, he's been, initiated into, like, the Santeria tribe and all that.
Right.
And me and him, we've been listening to you for a long time now, and he's been, like, initiated for, like, the last 2 years now.
Yeah.
And he was really asking me if you had got initiated, and what I was trying to explain to him, but I would like to you get me a better understanding that really you don't have to be initiated from as long as you're doing the knowledge, right?
No, that's a good question, because that's what came up the last time I was on this show.
Right.
All right.
Okay, and try to understand. These systems, Santeria, Yoruba, Voodoo, any existing system is only a fragment of what it used to be. It used to be a mystery system where you would go in and it would elevate yourself to godhood. So they would use several things from alchemy, astronomy, astrology, meditation, the mythology, different systems. It was a complete educational system. So, a complete educational system. And so, no matter how much the initiation is now, what is left over, the pieces that were left over from Africa to the Americas and stuff, they're still only fragments. And ultimately, it's just a system of worship.
Exactly.
You might have elaborate rituals and stuff like that, and you can ask these rituals to help you, but you can't raise yourself up from the God to the godhood, because the way the system is made, you worship the gods, and you basically, even if your worship means that you have to do strenuous rituals and taking care of them, and feeding them and stuff, that's still a form of worshiping because it's outside of yourself.
Okay.
It's outside of yourself. So now I study these systems because if you can read, there's no reason to initiate, and this is the point I'm trying to say to people. With the several Babalawos and those particular people, and although they call themselves priests and the different things, they are not on the level of a priest from 3,000 years ago, where you would literally be a god king. You would raise yourself up to the god level. These are just people that basically keep the rituals alive. You see what I'm saying? From stuff in a later time when these particular systems deteriorated. So you're still only getting fragments. Still only getting fragments. So it is beneath me with what I know to initiate. It is beneath me to become subordinate for those deities. So you see what I'm saying? So the deities. So now this is the difference. This is the difference. It's a matter of slavery, a matter of freedom. Now this is the difference. Whenever you initiate, you take an oath to those deities, whether you take a physical oath or just initiation itself. So let's say you go under Legba, and you go under Ogun, you go under Oshun. And when you initiate, based on your initiation, you as a person have made a concerted effort to be up under those deities as their subordinates. And when you do that, you have to do what they say because you made that. Now, me, on the other hand, when I go to the same Oshun, Ogun, and all of those, I'm not going as a subordinate. I am going as an equal, or I'm going as a superior, because my life down here on earth in the trenches make me superior. And therefore, I have a different relationship. I have a different relationship than them. So with you might, so this person is he might go to Oshun and ask Oshun to help him with his relationship. I go to Oshun, she break me off some pussy. It's a different thing.
All right, so another question.
When I get to fuck with the gods, you see what I'm saying, and you get to admire the gods. And that's the difference.
So if somebody comes up under it like that now, how would be the best way for them to get out of it, or basically improve
You declare yourself God. You declare yourself God and you renounce it. You see, the only thing you have under them, see, this is the problem where you get stuck. See, you have desires. So you don't want to leave the little tradition because the simple fact you might say, I might need you for something because you got desires. There ain't shit on this motherfucking earth I gotta ask a bitch-ass God for because I have gone beyond the desire part. Now, because I am a God, I become their brothers and sisters or their parents. And so therefore, I can ask my brother and sister for some shit because I'm part of the family. So it's a win-win situation. But what you do is you just say, fuck it. I declare myself deity. Now, don't just say a play on words, which means you got to study what the deities are and those attributes on what those deities apply to yourself. And therefore, you become equal with them. You see what I'm saying? Equal with them. So ain't no jive-ass babalawos or no jive-ass priests. Oh, God, they can't tell you this because the simple fact, when they received what they received, it was already on the inferior level. What I'm talking about is something 3 times more advanced. So don't go to the tradition. The tradition going to tell you, hey, you got to get down with this. But they don't know. You see what I'm saying? They don't know. They don't know that those systems used to be an advanced system to elevate man and woman. They only looking at it from the religious aspect in which it was brought to them or where they find it. So you got to make this decision up on your own. You can't go back to the tradition because they're going to tell you crazy. You see, but they simply don't know because at the time when we inherited it, you see what I'm saying, it was already on the inferior level. And basically, those traditions just survived so that those gods could feed, so that they didn't go sweetly swept up back into oblivion. And another thing, too, those systems were not meant for millions of people to do these rituals and try to borrow from them. So I have to try to get that energy because the simple fact, so they weren't world religions at that particular time. They were mystery systems to the elect priests. But so it wasn't meant to be so world religious. So as a result, now what you got is a real inferior thing going on. As a matter of fact, I remember Oshun showed up at our house and we built her a whole goddamn room before Katrina. I said, so come on now, come on now, you know. I said, not because I wanted, just to see what she was going to do. I said, well, where the fucking money? She said, man, I'm so goddamn weak. She said, I'm so fucking weak. I can't even do no shit like that. Which meant it was going to consist of me slaughtering 100 goddamn chickens to give her enough blood so that she could give up enough energy to do me a little favor. So she was even saying, look, this shit needs to evolve. Hell, they got 3 million Europeans in the continental United States. 3 million is worshiping damn Santeria in Europe. These things were not meant to be world religions and stuff like that. So I'm just trying to say, we're talking about now this shit evolving, you becoming gods. And you can't become gods being subordinate to one who needs blood, chicken blood, and all kind of bullshit. And I'm going to let you know another little secret, too. Oshun, Legban, all them, they're not even there no more. They have evolved into higher beings.
I heard you saying that the other night.
Yeah,
so
they have evolved into higher beings. Actually, what that stuff that those priests are all feeding off is leftover residue. That's a god, so it can leave a residue or a shadow force, and that's what most of the people are feeding off of. That shit ain't even real. The real entities have done evolved back into the light. You see what I'm saying? So even that, you see what I'm saying? But nevertheless, if the real entities couldn't do it when they was here, what the fuck you think of old bullshit-ass shadow force? They left a shadow force behind so that the priests and all them, they could feed off that kind of stuff, and they're feeding off of the God's car. The bar has done transformed to another level. You see what I'm saying? So now it's time for you to transform, because it's about becoming God. It ain't about giving no goddamn entities no chicken blood. You see what I'm saying? And some goats and shit. That's primitive stuff, and we had to do that to keep the system alive. But even the Sister Sharon Coulter, who wrote the book Mark of Voodoo, when she got back from Africa, she said, Bobby, this shit needs to evolve. I said, I know. Even the deities are tired, but now those deities are gone. They've been gone for the last couple of years. And what all that stuff that they're getting ain't nothing but some leftover residue. All right?
All right.
So we're getting advanced with this shit. That's how we got to take it. You see.
Right. All right. We are live in the remix, of course, speaking with Brother Bobby Hemmitt. That's right here live in the remix. For those of you who have questions or comments, 646-652-2711. I'm going to try to get to all the callers on the line. So if you have a question, please press 1 when you get on the line so I know you have a question. Next, we're going to go to caller from area code 310. I believe I just went to that caller, but we'll double check. 310, you are live in the remix.
No, it's me. You just talked to a while.
Oh, okay, beautiful. That's okay, my brother. I want to make sure I get everybody. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that so much, Bobby.
All right.
Yes.
All right. So next, we're going to go to caller from area code 231. You are live in the remix. Please tell us who you are and where you're calling from. 231, you're live in the remix. Okay, perhaps they're just listening from area code 231. All right. Next caller from area code, hold on one second. Caller from area code 410, you are live in the remix. Please tell us who you are and where you're calling from.
This is Chuck calling from Baltimore.
Okay, greetings and thank you so much for calling in this evening. You had a question or a comment for Brother Bobby?
Yes. Greetings, Sister Blue. Bobby, I've been following you, man, for, I guess, since about 1995, man.
All right.
Actually, I have a comment. I hear you talk a lot about folks feeding into this fear that they're pumping with all this Illuminati stuff and all this stuff you find on YouTube.
Good question.
And you know, one of the things you always say is we need to tap into things that we can actually affect. And when I see this stuff, one of the things I do is I go to my altar and I talk to my ancestors and I talk to some of the deities that I deal with, and I tell them, look, get together and fight this thing. And I tell you, I get that from a couple of movies that I've seen, and I wanted to get your take on this and see if this is some kind of ancient stuff that they're tapping into. But if you look at movies like Lord of the Rings, at the end of the movie, he has to tap into this ghost army that's basically sitting around on their ass waiting on somebody to give them instructions.
Yeah.
You see the same thing in the Golden Compass.
Yeah.
Where you have this group of witches that are sitting around on their ass waiting on this little girl to give them some instructions.
Right.
And I just want to get your take on that because I feel like that's what we need to be doing. Instead of worrying about mundane things like give us some money and stuff like that, we need to be giving these things some serious instructions. Do this, do that.
At this time, they are living entities. And so they will work for you in something based on an overlook of either something that you tapped into that you write on it or something that you don't see. For example, sometimes you might say, well, get into this or do this, and it might be something personal, and they can see beyond that and go, that's not important. So it has to be something that's important and right in line with what they're trying to do, because you got to realize now they're trying to evolve, So, a lot of times they won't do things to line up with something that's very mundane. So sometimes if it's personal, that's what I'm not going to really waste no time, because that's only an illusion. Now, sometimes there might be protection. They'll say, well, I'm going to protect him because he's going to be the one that's going to evolve into this God force, and we're going to need him around so you can get that protection. But as far as these stupid-ass niggas out here, other things that's happening on the mundane level, they go, oh, well, you know, they don't exist no way. And so, therefore, they're not going to lend their energy. And what do they mean by they don't exist? If you look out in space, and you will see, look down on the earth, and you will see these different lights beaming. Those lights beaming will be the ones that are awakened, their consciousness. Either their consciousness evolve into more knowledge, or they are awake, or totally awakened. Everything else down there is dead. So that's considered an illusion. So with the people who are asleep, it's almost like they don't exist at all in the first place. So when we're talking about this thing, we have to talk in context of conscious people, enlightened people, and then we have to go to what's important or not. So you have to analyze what you're going to utilize their help for. You see what I'm saying? Because they don't really have a whole lot of time to waste, especially if they can see past some stuff. You know, like you might want to get some personal revenge on somebody, and they go, well, you know, that shit don't even really exist. It doesn't matter. So therefore, that's how that particular thing works. Now, as far as Illuminati is concerned, and these particular things, the more and more you hear from them, and the more and more their information is revealed, just like in the Angels and Demons movie, and more different things, is because they are weak. And their whole thing is to give you this perception that they're powerful. And they're powerful. And in all honesty, they're not running shit. We're running it. We just don't know it yet. But we're the ones that's in charge. And that's what the key here is for distraction, is to give you the fear, to make you think that they're in charge, and they're not. And you can't go by on how they mess niggas up, because niggas are dead. And as a result, and I ain't even talking about black people, I'm just talking about people, period. The sheeple, that's in any kind of race. Those people are dead, they don't even exist. So whatever happened to them really don't even register on the Richter scale of spirituality, because they were asleep anyway. You see, they're asleep anyway. So sometimes we have to measure what we really get emotional about and find out, is this thing worth its salt? So, worth its salt. So, in short, when you call on these deities, and based on how much you receive their help is what's going to be important. Mainly at this particular time, then one of the most important things these deities are going to do is, number one, they're going to assist you. Let's say if you got a health problem, because they need you around for you to illuminate. The second thing they're going to try to do is the army is supposed to work with you to get you to a certain level of spirituality. So, other than asking for mundane things, or other than asking for things that emotionally might hurt you because some white man done slapped some black woman or something like that, they are more interested in getting you to a certain level of godhood. So they're more interested in working with you for knowledge and information for evolution. You see what I'm saying? Because that's the most important thing. You see, the most important thing. Because most people, even when we're dealing with the fear, we're dealing with it in relationship to some old mundane shit. You see what I'm saying? And that's distraction. You see, so they will work, but it depends on what's important. And you have to elevate your mind to find out what is important. You see what I'm saying? What is important? Things that was important to me starting out in this thing are not, they don't even exist no more. You see what I'm saying? Things that was important to me 10 years ago, you see what I'm saying, is a faint memory.
Right.
So, yes.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for calling in. We're going to go ahead. We have about 22 people on the call line. I want to try to see.
Yeah, let's roll with them.
We can get with them. Okay, thank you, brother, for calling in. All right, we're going to continue on. Caller from area code 415. You are live in the remix. Please tell us who you are and where you're calling from. Caller from area code. Oh, okay. Greetings.
Greetings, Miss Blue, from out of California.
Okay, wonderful. You had a question or a comment for Brother Bobby Hemmett?
Sure. How you doing, Brother Bobby?
How's it going? All right?
I would like to hear your theory of the Dark Ages in comparison of the rise of the white folks that gained acquired knowledge from across this planet to put themselves in such a superior place, where they would put themselves in position to implement the knowledge that they acquired from other cultures. How did that happen?
It was a good question, and it was a divine one, too. We put them in position to acquire this particular knowledge. Why? Because we were losing our memory. We know we were going dormant. And we knew that several knowledge had to survive on the planet, and they had to be at a certain sophisticated level. So when we came out of our sleep, i.e. the 20th century, on into the 21st century, there would be stuff available that we could access. And the only way you could do that is to raise people, because we knew prophecy. We knew that they were going to rule. And we had to do the good with the bad. Yeah, they took certain technology, and this planet is only an illusion. But let's say we didn't give them the information, and they were going to rule anyway. And we went into damn amnesia, and we started coming out of our amnesia, whether we come out of slavery or come out of dormancy, because all the planet, half Africa is in amnesia. And let's say, and not just Africa, the indigenous world, China, India, Tibet. And so what happened was, because I want to include the global aspect of this, but what happened was, had we not given this particular information and put them at a certain level of superior access, then whenever we came out of our amnesia, out of our slavery and the stuff, and we was ready to acquire knowledge to get back on top, can you imagine what would have happened if they didn't have this knowledge? It would have been lost forever. And look how bad they behaved with the knowledge and information. Can you imagine what would have happened if they didn't have it? So you got to realize, so we could look, we have prophecy where we look ahead in the future all over the planet, and we knew what was going down. And we decided we had to bring these people to a certain level, you see what I'm saying, who were going to be the new rulers. We had to, because everything deteriorates, and we had to bring these people to a certain level. All would be lost when we start coming out of our amnesia. We need a certain place in certain things in place, and so we systematically put them in this particular in this particular level. They didn't steal it. You see what I'm saying? A lot of them came out of caves. They couldn't acquire this information if we didn't give it to them. That's why we spent 700 years in Europe teaching them. So whenever we took our damn recess and our cat nap, whenever we came out of it, there would be things that was laid out for us. So it's a bigger picture on what happened. Otherwise, if we had this prophecy, why would we spend 700 years in Europe? You see what I'm saying? And with 16 major universities to get them in line so that they can preserve this particular information for us. You see what I'm saying? So it's not a tragedy. Actually, in all honesty, the shit is all in line. It played out perfect the way we needed it. You see what I'm saying? If we didn't have them doing this, we couldn't access our own information. You see what I'm saying? Hell, we got problems accessing it now. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Hell, you go on a black business now, and I'm tired. I want to ask a question. Why are all black businesses always out of shit? Oh, brother, we ain't got that. Got a fucking menu, and always out of shit. Always out of shit on the shelf. You see what I'm saying? So we ain't at a level now to function on some things. Few of us fall through the cracks. You see what I'm saying? But can you imagine if nothing was around when we woke up? In the mental illness that we are in now? Shoot, it would be something. So everything is divine.
Right.
You see, it's right in order.
Right, beautiful. Okay, Brother Bobby Hemmett, we're going to go ahead and we're going to get one more caller on the line. We're not going to stop, but then I will get the question in from the brother who emailed me from Japan, and I believe they're in the chat room. So in case I don't get a chance to get to their question, but let's just go on. Thank you for that question, caller.
Yes.
Caller from area code 904. You are live in the remix. Please tell us who you are and where you're calling from.
Good evening. How you doing?
Wonderful. Good evening. How are you?
I'm well. This is Anthony Jones. I'm actually calling from the Bahamas.
Okay. Well, welcome to the Bahamas in the house. Thank you. You had a question or a comment for Brother Bobby?
Yeah, Bobby. First, let me say thank you. I've been following your work since about 2001. You're awesome. Keep doing what you're doing, bro. My question, is kind of a statement along with a question. I came across some information that talks about lifting our vibrational energy. And the more conscious we become, the more we're able to bring certain love energy into this world.
Yeah.
Now, my understanding about that, and my question to you is, when someone with a higher vibrational energy dies, where does that energy go? Does it surround the world? Does it help to bring about a level of consciousness? I know a few years ago you talked about the tsunami and the fact that those individuals that died, as their energy is being dispersed.
Yes. Well, it's a good question. Where they actually go is inside of the nearest conscious ancestor, or if they can't find a conscious ancestor, inside the nearest person that's conscious. So they actually go inside of you. That's why the government studies genetics. You see what I'm saying? That's why the Human Genome Project that went down all of the 90s, and when he got through with it, he used most of the 2000s to study the genetics of black people, tracing their roots back to Africa. Black people in this country, African Americans, tracing their roots back to Africa, and the brothers and sisters from the Caribbean, they did a whole thing in London with the London connection, and the people they trace the Caribbean people from Europe trace their stuff back to Africa. So my point here is they know that where it goes back. It goes inside of you. It goes inside of you. That's why some people, when their parents die, or brother, they see them in dreams. That is because they are inside of the central nervous system, or they are inside of that person's car, which is a collective memory bank of melanin. And so they go to live inside of, that's that Black River Stacks that I talked about, and they got those people in that boat that's traveling down that river in your central nervous system. Those are the ancestors in that boat. So they go inside of you. So it's like the Highlander thing. Don't get mad. Don't get upset. More black people get killed, get their heads chopped off, more empowered we get. You see what I'm saying? That's why don't cry for those out there in the streets. That's cannon fodder. They were put there to take the hit for you while you can learn what you can learn. Thus, if they do die, you get empowered. You get quickened because they go into your genetic trait. So that's where this energy actually goes. It goes back into the ancestral lineage called the Horus lineage. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. The Horus lineage. Because some of them are too, they don't have enough knowledge to go on these astral planes and escape and bounce around the astral planes. So what they do is they go to the nearest ancestor and all like that. But that empowers us. And they know, and as a result, it helps. This is why our DNA has changed. You see what I'm saying? Number one, we are old enough for it to change. They talk about this process of a mutation, a transmutation, because we've been around long enough. But then again, on the other hand, we've had a lot of people to die too. And so that's also a part of a transmutation because the DNA changes. You see what I'm saying? All because they go to live inside of us. Yes.
Thank you, Bobby. I appreciate it.
Right. Even when women have babies, they give a woman gives part of her car, her essence, to that child. You see what I'm saying? And like I said, I was born in 1961. Me, Barack Obama, Eddie Murphy, etc., Lawrence Fishburne, Forrest Whitaker. But I can remember the 1950s clearly, because my mother, at the time when she was young in the 50s, she died. When she had me, she gave me part of her car, which is a part of her memory bank. And I can remember the 60s vividly, not the 50s vividly, but I was born in 61. So here we talk about a symbiotic relationship in the genetic fabric that we pass on to each other. You see what I'm saying? Yes.
Thank you, Bobby. I appreciate that, man.
All right.
All right. Well, we are just under a few minutes here left to go in the remix. And, Bobby, I want to get the question in from the brother who had the question, I believe, from Japan. And his question was this. Just recently, President Barack Obama took a trip, and he was actually visiting Egypt. I believe he was in Cairo. I'm not sure exactly. But there was a point where he was taking a look at some of the hieroglyphs and made a joke about how the similarities between some of the things that he's seen in the hieroglyph, how they looked similar.
Like his big ears.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the question was, coming from the listener from Japan, they wanted to know, what was your take on that? What do you think that was?
Well, that was prophecy. See, now to get into the political thing of Barack Obama, he just got a job, 8-year job, 4-year job. And nobody's job can help you.
Right.
But if you understand symbolically, and the symbolic aspect is just a monitor of where the race is. He represents the return of the Pharaoh because of the inauguration. See, the inauguration, they had 2 inaugurations in Egypt, in what is called the double White House in Egypt.
Right.
And the double White House is, you had the White House, the Pharaoh, politically occupied for the mass of the people. And that's on a political level. Then you have what is called the other part of the White House, which is the double White House. One was called the House of the Living, political. The other one was the House of the Dead, i.e. ancestors. You see what I'm saying? I.e. the true power, the true souls.
Right.
And so both were initiated. So as a result of him in this inauguration in February, January, in that inauguration, he initiated politically on one house, but we initiated genetically based on the DNA in the House of the Dead or the House of the Ancestors. So whenever he does things physically, you see what I'm saying, it's only a symbol of some stuff that's happening spiritually. So when he made that point, and he basically took those hieroglyphics and saw himself into them, in them and stuff, that is a statement of the return of us. And it played out on the earth plane. And it might have been a joke or what have you. Everything is everything.
That's correct.
You see what I'm saying? Everything is everything. Including when they tried to kill him last month, or the other month when he went to Mexico.
Right.
And he went to Mexico, and and the curator and the guy that was over the actual summit, they gave him a germ warfare. And he hugged all over Barack Obama. Barack Obama left, and 2 days later the guy died from so-called the swine flu. But it was a germ warfare swine flu meant to kill Barack Obama. But Obama had stopped through Trinidad. The week before.
Right.
And he got fortified by the god Hanuman because Trinidad is made up of blacks and East Indians. And then the blacks married the East Indians. And they got a big old Hanuman over there. And by Barack Obama living in Indonesia, and everybody in Asia worshiped the Monkey King and stuff, he knew about Hanuman, had a Hanuman tattoo on him and a Hanuman charm bracelet. So he stopped through Hanuman's land, Trinidad. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And as a result, he got fortified. So when he went to the summit, nothing happened. But the guy died 2 days later. You see what I'm saying? So 2 days later, after he leaves, but after he done hugged all over Barack Obama. So they tried to take him out. You see what I'm saying? But it backfired and stuff like that.
Right.
You see, so yeah.
So that was the question that they had. And so what we're going to do now is continue. We're going to go back to the phone lines. We have just about 18 minutes left to go in the forum. If anyone else has a question, please press a 1 so I know that you want a question or you have a question for Brother Bobby Hemmett, and we'll go from there. Caller from area code 831, you are live in the remix. Please tell us who you are and where you're calling from.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Greetings and welcome to the remix.
Good evening, Sister Blue. This is Yolanda calling from Monterey. We spoke earlier today, Monterey,
yes,
California.
This is Throne of Offset.
Okay,
Yeah.
that worked. So that worked.
Yes, it did. There
Okay,
you go.
Throne of Offset.
Greetings, Honorable High Priest Mr. Hemmett.
How you doing?
I'm all right. I'm on cloud 9. I can't believe I'm talking to you. I ran
right.
into you a month ago on YouTube, and I've been
Okay.
watching every day trying to get every
Yeah.
video you got on there. I'll be going to bed at 1 and 2 in the morning.
I hear you. Well, YouTube is only snippets. I actually sell most of the videos or the DVDs, and they're a minimum
don't worry,
of 6
brother.
hours.
I'm going to get some. I'm going to get some.
They're a minimum of 6 hours long.
Yeah, I know. There's one I really want that you have called, I think you just did it, called the Divine Black Family.
Nah, that's a bootleg. Somebody, I never did
Oh.
no thing. See, that's why it's best to go through me.
Okay.
Because the simple fact, what it is they'll take those and rename them.
Okay.
So I never did nothing called no Divine Black Family. That's
Okay.
bootleg people. And see, it would be all right. I don't mind bootlegging, but why change the name? But see, our people are lost and hearted.
Okay.
They'll get some
I'll
stuff
go
and they'll
through-
sell it.
I'll go
Yeah,
through Panic or through
Right,
Miss
go
Blue
through Panic,
to
yeah.
get them.
Because they'll
Or
get
Miss
some stuff
Blue.
and they'll sell it, and then when it gets old, they'll change the name and try to sell it again. Our people, see, the merchants was considered the lowest thing living in the ancient world. Because they know that the merchants,
Because they were materialistic and they weren't
based on the
spiritual.
greed and stuff, you see what I'm saying? They were very
Yeah.
lost and hearted, and they were looked
Yeah.
down upon. And although we do a lot of stuff now, our people are just that swine and low level.
Okay,
And so
I'm
the
sorry.
best
I
thing
didn't know
is
that.
to
Well, I'm glad I
get
talked
it-
to you,
to
but
get it
now I
from
know.
me.
Okay.
Yes.
And then I also wanted to tell you, I was listening to you last night on the thing you did on angels and demons, where you were talking about angels. I was listening to you on YouTube, and you talked about the Holy Ghost song. And then I went and found it today on the internet, and I was listening to the riff over and over and over, just like you said.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't find it
it'll
anywhere
get
else. I couldn't find it
it'll-
anywhere else.
It'll bring you there.
Yeah, it did, but I can't find it anywhere else, so I had to listen to it over and over like you were doing.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah.
anyway.
Well, you can order it. Well, I tell you what, I just received the 8-minute version, so if you contact, you could be able to get it through me.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And then another thing I wanted to tell you, going back to the initially when you started talking tonight, you talked about Atlantis and Lemuria.
Yeah.
And the book, The Great Earth Mother by Monica Soju and Barbara Moore, they mentioned that Atlantis was off the coast of Africa. And then also you were talking about how we became more human rather than godlike. And I think it was Plato and Socrates who write about that in their ancient writings, that the human beings fell because they became human rather than spiritual. So, and then also, this is something I really am wanting to get into with you later, hopefully if I get to talk to you later. Shirley MacLaine talks about the soul being one, the male and the feminine soul being one, and that happened to her in another life. She talks about that and out on a limb. But she's white. How can she know about all this? Is she white? But
Well, you
she
got
talks about
like
the same thing.
Well, first of all, now everything you got to realize this, and I talk about this. More and more research comes. You got to realize now the Moors stayed in Europe for 700 years, and one of their things they did.
I'm thinking about white people got black genes in them.
They spread their seed.
Oh,
So
okay,
you can't
great.
go
That
by
explains it all.
skin color
That
no
explains
more,
it all.
because goddamn it, there's all kind of genetic things happening. You see what I'm saying? There's all kind of genetic things happening, and so that don't mean anything. You see what I'm saying? Plus, you got to realize, because the person channels doesn't necessarily mean a person is high up. They're just getting information that is coming in through a certain astral plane. So there's several ways to get stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah, we were getting some feedback, so I had to make sure I just
Yeah.
kind of muted some of the mics there.
Yeah.
Okay, well, beautiful. Thank you so much for calling in. I'm going to continue on with the phone line. Caller from area code 313, you are live in the remix. Please tell us who you are and where you're calling from. Caller from area code 313? Okay, they're just listening. All right, hold on just a second there. All right. Well, we're going to continue on with the conversation, Bobby, and then I'll go back and try to pick up with some of the callers that do have their questions up there. But I want to talk about this. You had stated once when me and you had a conversation about this new age that we're moving into. Some say we're moving into. You say we have already moved into the new age of Aquarius as of February the 14th, 2009, midnight. So what does that really mean, and what should we really be looking at, and what changes will start to come about?
Well, anything when you study it, anything you try to monitor, monitor it from the inside out. The outside does have changes, but they're very slow by the time they get to the physical. A lot of this stuff is changing within us. And even if it's some things that is changing on the earth physically, you would be able to understand it from the inner aspect of things. One thing here is, and it's becoming more and more common, if you right beside a person and you will basically think something and the person will say it.
Right.
That's because that telepathic field now is returning at a rapid pace, a rapid pace. Certain things like that is happening. One thing we focus on is a lot of angelic deities, beings are coming back as far as like the archangel, which were responsible. In fact, they helped put us down here. But as a result, now our children are now extremely old, and we, the parents, are new and regenerated. So they need our light. So the thing about it here is everything in the heavens spionized together. There is no light and dark forces fighting against each other. The only thing that's not together is the egos in humans.
I agree.
We're the last frontier that's battling with that and stuff. All the heaven realm and all the luminaries in the heavens are together. And so it's one symbiotic relationship that's happening. We give the archangels our light, and thus they help raise us up. And it's a symbiotic relationship. It's one organism working to illuminate. Now, as far as the humans, with that, one of the synchronicities of that telepathy and that thought process that's coming back will also link us back together. It's like the last invasion movie. They had the invasion of the body snatchers, then you had the invasion, the one with what's the girl used to be married to Tom Cruise?
Jennifer. Was it Jennifer?
No, what's her name? I can't think of her name right now. Was married to Tom Cruise, the blonde girl. Was in Eyes Wide Shut. Nicole Kidman was in the last invasion movie, I think in 2007. And in that movie, that they showed this one central consciousness coming. And one central consciousness coming. And that consciousness is a higher consciousness. Although the movie always say that's evil to get rid of your individuality. Your individuality is your ego. You see what I'm saying? But we're talking about a higher plane of consciousness. And so they spoke to one half of the audience that understood this is where this stuff is coming to, going to, and then rest of them still talking about your individuality. I mean, we don't even create nothing from individuality anymore. When the last time we even had a new song come out? You see what I'm saying? That's even when Prince told that girl, he got on Target and went to #1 and sold all those albums. And he has this sister that's on his album. She has an entire disc or CD within his 2 CD set. There's 3 DVDs. Excuse me. She has an entire one. And he told her, look, whatever you do, don't come out sounding like the rest of these people, Beyonce, all that.
Right.
And so she came out with a style. It's similar to Sade, but it's her own thing. But on the creative level, individuality is through. We're not producing nothing on the earth no more. You see, on the earth no more. So it's time for a new consciousness, and that new consciousness is a oneness. Is a oneness, and that's what's actually happening. And that movie showed that more than anything. That movie Invasion.
Right.
Of that consciousness. Now, when the first one came out in 1956, they was all upset. And then one came out in 78, and then one came out in 93. You would call that the zombie effect. But this one came out in 2007, Invasion with Nicole Kidman. That one is showing what that consciousness is about.
It shows
Yes.
about. Beautiful.
And that's the oneness.
Right. Now I have a question that often I struggle with. I struggle with internally of really just trying to pull this piece together. And I know you and a lot of people in the conscious community have really given me their insight on this. But I want to ask you here, because I think this is a question that comes up a lot, especially when it comes to talking about the soul and what role the actual soul plays with us. You know, we have the mind, the body, and some would say the soul, and the connection that it plays in our transformation as becoming gods and goddesses walking on this earth. What is that connection between the soul, and what do we need that for in our transformation?
The soul is all there really is. Everything else is a projection of the soul. And this particular soul, when it starts to wake itself up, which is a sun, S-U-N-S-O-N.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Or a star. Every man, every woman is a star. Whenever it starts to wake itself up, it does various things. Some souls are still asleep. So therefore, in place of it, the ego exists and supposes itself to be the individual. That's most people. But then when the soul starts to wake up, it starts to send signals to the consciousness to remember itself. So you start reading, you start studying, and you start, going into this particular consciousness. Now, there's several distractions in there because when the soul is trying to do it, the ego is still involved, and it's a hard process because you can get distracted again, which means the ego can go, hey, this soul is waking up, but I still love it. I want to exist. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a part of this knowledge that ultimately will wake this soul up, and I'm going to have this person get locked in one of the areas of the knowledge. And it will suppose itself it's being knowledge, but because it is locked into one area, that's nothing but a form of ego. That's why they say master nothing. So the story goes in the Holy Grail. They got a knight called Parzival. Parzival is a knight that was raised in the country by his mother. His father was a knight. The father gets killed. The mother says, it's a horror story, basically. The father was a knight. The father gets killed. The mother said, I don't want him to be no knight. So she raises him way in the woods. And he plays with nature and everything. And so one day, he's out there in the woods, and he sees a shining knight in a silver shining suit. And he said, oh my God, that's God. So he runs and tells his mom, tells his mama, say, Mom, I want to be a knight. And she almost faints. But she knows he's getting to be 18 now, and she can't hold him forever. So she has one of these plans. She takes him and sews him up a court jester's uniform and says, this is the uniform of a knight. So her plan is when he comes there looking like a clown at King Arthur's court, they will laugh him out of the court, and he will run back home and never want to be a knight again. So he rides off to King Arthur's court. As soon as he rides off, she falls off dead. And the reason why she falls out dead, because when you're on this bridge, if you try to go backwards, you fall. You can never go backwards. You can never go home. So what happens here is, he gets to the court, knight's court, and they are laughing and laughing and laughing at him with this court jester in such a ridiculous outfit, till it gets the ear of King Arthur. Thus, he's able to go into, it works the opposite. He's able to go right in front of King Arthur because of this funny outfit. And later on, he ends up becoming a knight, but all of this is the key. All of the knights were proficient and masters, but they are always masters at one discipline.
Right.
Which means that you're still locked in a box. Whereas Parzival, because he was not raised into knighthood and came from humble origins, he was able to get the Holy Grail when the other ones were not able to get the Holy Grail. The Holy Grail is, i.e., his own soul, and rise to the God level. That's what the mystery is. He is able to get the Holy Grail for the simple fact that by him not mastering the discipline, he was able to ride through all of the disciplines. You see what I'm saying? And get his own soul. So mastering, you master something, but if you master one section, you're only inflating your ego. By him being the divine fool, which is the tarot card, is called the fool. And it is the only tarot card that can be used throughout the entire deck. It masters all. So that's what the humility is. So in so many words, you have to trick the ego to keep letting you go. So to give you an example, back in 98, I produced my dark side lectures and started explaining all this stuff based on the dark side.
Right.
Now, I became famous with it, but I could have used it as a theology and say, that's what I'm an expert at, and that's all I'm going to do.
Right.
And I would have got stuck. Hell, I'm talking about fucking archangels now in the relationship. So you never get stuck. You never turn anything into a theology. And that is the reason why most of these systems that people initiate in, they're never going to work, because they are only a fragment of something, and ultimately the ego can latch on to that. So in so many words, the soul sends this particular information so it can get to know itself, so it can remember who it is. You see what I'm saying? But the ego is there for distraction. But the soul is all there really is. And it's an entire maze between the soul and you. And you. And so what you have to ultimately do is to surrender and give up and say, I don't exist. So what I had to do is I had to get rid of Bobby Hemmett.
Right.
You see, and all that was dear to me. You see. That way you can eliminate the possibility of the ego latching on. Bobby Hemmett ain't around now for the ego to latch on. You see what I'm saying? I ain't got no goddamn scruples. None. No scruples whatsoever. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
You know.
Wow. An incredible 2 hours. We're going to continue this conversation. For those of you who are out there listening, we have just about 1 minute to go with Brother Bobby Hemmett. I want to thank everybody from across the world who helped to put the show on, Brother Panic, Sister Ursa Mayat. I want to thank the Patah family over there. Definitely want to thank the Hetapu Network family, and Siba Haru, Alke Bulan, and all of those out there. I want to thank everybody, Chat with the Gods, Mayat Ray, and the whole family, and everybody listening from the Bahamas and everywhere, and my YouTube family who just came on board. Thank you so much for your support. And all the newcomers to the remix, make sure you sign up for the feed so you can know the next time that we will have a speaker here. We do this every Friday night at 9 p.m. Central Time or 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And for those of you who want to find out or have more information that is original, that is coming from Brother Bobby Hemmett himself, let's just rely on one source. Make sure you go to MySpace / and Google Brother Bobby Hemmett's name. I'm going to put that link up underneath the show, and that's B-O-B-B-Y, Hemmett, H-E-M-M-I-T-T, and you can find the information or Facebook, Everybody has a Facebook, except for me, of course, Miss Blue, so maybe somebody will help me out. But Facebook, you can go there, or you can also contact Brother Panic as well, and you can get the information, and trust me, many people have ordered from the last show, and they are very pleased, and they're back again, and I can see that with all the love here. So many people, Brother Bobby Hemmett, want to hear the information that has been bestowed to you from the ancestors. And so for me, I thank you. This path of enlightenment for me has been a very joyous one. It's been some trials and tribulations, a lot of things I had to learn and grow and still learning and grow from. But I thank you because you're a big part of me reaching for my own development, as many of us are. And you bring so much wisdom and knowledge, not only from your own existence here, but also from all of those ancestors that you connect yourself with. You are truly a God. We are truly blessed to have you in our presence, and you're welcome back here on the forum anytime. So I'm going to give you some lasting words that you can take us out this evening, because we still have over 20 people listening on the phone line, that you can share some words to really help us to keep moving forward.
And also, they can send a postal money order just for donation. Hell.
There we go.
You know what I'm
That's
saying?
it. We have to support
send
you.
a postal money under Robert Hemmett, R-O-B-E-R-T. That's the official. Hey, just do a donation if you like what you're hearing and stuff, because it's not like I got a 9 to 5.
That's right.
If I did, my brain wouldn't function to go into these regions to bring you information that most humans don't get.
Right.
And so that's the trade-off.
if you guys want that information, send me an email like we did before, like you've been doing, and I will make sure I forward that address to you so that you can do a donation because, again, like you said, you dedicated your life to really bringing us this information so that we can find our own ways, and we're very thankful for it. And so for all donations, everyone, please let's give our energy to those things that we want to support.
Yes. At this particular time, the more you study, the more and more things open up. Right. And a lot of times you just have to just formulate questions, and your questions is answers. Formulate your questions in your mind and then go after answering those particular questions. Right. We're on the cusp of things. Right now, we have the archangels are now returning. They're the last of the family because they were the first. Now they're the last because they thrust the demons out. Now the demons are rose up high with the light. Right. And now the archangels now they got to get their little groove on. So Michael, Uriel, Gabriel, Raphael, all of those particular deities, familiarize yourself with them. Then there's the guardian angels. And please inquire on an angelic check. It's an angelic stimulus check that is given from the angelic realm that you could receive $2,500 constantly. So please inquire on that angelic stimulus package that we got going on. And people have already started working it. It's just whenever you get the check, make sure that the next person get the check from you. The Xerox copies of the check won't work because it's got an angelic stamp on it. If it don't have that stamp, it's not going to work. So get the so that it has to. This is how it has to come through me. You see what I'm saying? And because these are spirits, and so that's one aspect. But my point here is there's all kinds of disciplines and stuff that's opening up, but don't stay in one discipline. It might be some I Ching coming. Right. It might be some Mayan stuff coming. Right. It might be systems, might be some Tibetan stuff coming. East Indian. Deal with it all. Because that's when you put the pieces together and it makes one mystery system. You see. Tap into mythology. Right. Any kind of mythology, even Greek mythology, because that's Phoenician mythology. Tap into mythology. A lot of the stories and a lot of the things in mythology. Egyptian mythology, Greek mythology, Sumerian mythology, East Indian mythology, Asian mythology. Mythology is the key. Tap into some King Arthur and the Round Table and the Arthurian cycle of mythology with Guinevere, because that's all Moorish. The Moors introduced that into Europe. So tap into some Arthurian mythology. That's real key right now, because Camelot is opening up, this mystical land. And the Camelot is on the inside of you. You see what I'm saying? So tap into any kind of mythology is very key at this particular time. And that's a roadmap to understanding what all this is about. You see what I'm saying? So study to know thyself, approve. Yes.
All right. All right, everyone. You heard it here, right here, with Brother Bobby Hemmitt live in the remix. Make sure you download the show. Make sure you pass it on. Make sure you contact Brother Bobby Hemmitt and give your energy to those things that we want to support. And definitely Brother Bobby Hemmitt is one that we want to support. He gives so much to the community. We want to make sure that we give it back to him. So, Brother Bobby Hemmitt, again, I cannot thank you enough for coming by. It is truly always an honor to have you come here in the remix and speak. And we look forward to having you back here again real soon.
Yes.
Okay.
No
I'm
problem.
sure everybody will be in touch. To take us out, everyone, we're going to listen to a little bit of Day and Night. Got some exciting shows planned for you coming up. And so we'll keep the guests on lock for right now, but for now, we're still riding high off of Brother Bobby Hemmitt. Peace, love, and life to everyone. Hatapu, and thank you again.